All right. Hey, you guys. Minister Ashley here, Divine Ones. All right. So today is the last day of the 21-day life reset. Now, these messages, there's not 21 messages. There's like about 17 messages. Sundays, I took the day of Sabbath. And then on this past Monday, we had that eclipse, that powerful eclipse, and I actually went live on that day, so you can check that message out. The replay is on my YouTube mother channel, FD 1111 Ministries. Okay, so this topic right here, let's first take a moment and settle into this energy and consciously tap into the receptive part of our brains. I have some frankincense and myrrh incense burning over here. All right. Okay, so let's get into this message. So first, I'm going to decode the name Genesis. The Hebrew name is Bereshit, and that means most translations going to say in the beginning, but it actually is also in a beginning. And I've done a small video about breaking down that word and the reason why it could be changed from in the beginning from in a beginning, because that implies that there's multiple beginnings. So a little side note there. Okay, so first let's get into, I'm also going to do the numerology. Be fruitful and multiply. That comes from Genesis 1:28. So let's break down what Genesis means. Okay, so first, if you look at the spelling of Genesis, you have the word gen in there. Genes, if you add the S to it, genes. So what are genes? Genes are DNA codes. This is how we are programmed. So you have your genetic code that is already a program. Before you even come here, like your genetic code would be from encoding from your family, your father, and your mother, and those generations before. So it also has the prefix of generations with the G, E, and N. That represents like for generations. So generations are encoded in your DNA. So things that your previous generations have experienced, it also is encoded in your DNA. So it's passed down from generation to generation. Now with the word, this also includes behavioral patterns, hand-me-down traits. It could be trauma, but it also could be power that is handed down. So pretty much like your ancestors too. You also have the genetic code of your ancestors, meaning that you can pull information from them. You can pull strength from them as well. This is what another trait of ancestor veneration, or maybe not veneration, but ancestor work. You can pull from your ancestors to receive answers and clarity. And they also could fight on your behalf. Okay, and then we get to the last little portion of this. And gen. In the word Genesis is also gen. What is a gen? A gen is a genie. So when we unlock our genetic code, we pretty much, in essence, are releasing the genie out of the bottle. So the bottle would be the container of the genetic code that's sealed. But when you break that seal and you unlock that coding, you have infinite access to let the genie out of the bottle, a figure of speech, to pretty much, unlock things that have been hidden, either like from a perceptive standpoint or doors that have been blocked off to you. And this is doors in the consciousness, but as well avenues and doors in your physical reality. So you're able to look at things from a different perspective, but it also helps to unlock DNA, unlock avenues in your life. And lastly, we have the Gentile. And the Gentile is not, okay, let me break this down. Okay, so Gentile is, in the Bible, they may make it seem like it's a bloodline thing, but it's not really a bloodline thing. On a higher perspective, it really is one that has not unlocked their DNA, one that is not in the Christ mind, the higher mind. So when you unlock your DNA, when you tap into the Christ mind, it's nothing that is hidden unto you. Okay, it's nothing that will block you. If you look at the figure and the archetype of Christ, every avenue and door is open unto Christ. So it's the same thing that happens with us. That's letting the genie out of the bottle. That's unlocking our DNA. Okay, so the entire book of Genesis is genetic codes, and that's why it's the first book. It's talking about genetics and genetic codes and unlocking blockages, all of that. So I will do another study on the book of Genesis. That will be down the road as I pick back up my Ascended Bible studies that I used to do years ago. So I will be picking those up really soon. Okay, so now let's get into the numerology. So this is in the chapter of 28. So let's break down 28. You have 2. Well, I'm sorry, not chapter. I meant verse. That's what I meant. But it's actually in chapter 1. So 1 is the God mind, the God self. It also is us, literally us. Everything that comes back around full circle to us. And it's in the verse of 28. So 2 and 8. 2 is the number of duality. Your subconscious and your conscious mind, your intuitive self and your logical self. And this speaks to, in this specific scripture, it speaks to the animal nature and our higher nature. And I'm going to get into that later on in this study. And 8 is fruitfulness. Together, 2 and 8 equals 10, the covenant. A covenant that is being fulfilled, that you have the power to fulfill. All right. Now I'm going to get into the actual scripture. I'm going to turn this over on. Got plenty of notes. As you guys know, I keep notes. Now I did do another video, like a short video about Elohim and masculine and feminine. And you can find that on Instagram, I think. I don't think I have posted it yet on my YouTube. And it may even be here on TikTok, so you can check that video out. But pretty much like the Elohim is, if you think about 2 ends of the spectrum, and sometimes I even envision a battery. You have the positive terminal and then you have the negative terminal. And together they work in unison, but it's all one battery, okay? But you need both of them. And it's a spectrum. The energy is a spectrum from the masculine to the feminine and the positive to the negative. It's a spectrum. So you have masculine and feminine and everything in between. The reason why I made that specific video was a debate about male and female as far as gender and identities. So it's the whole spectrum. If God created everything, then everything is encompassing within God. Like the same way how you have black and white and all the colors in between. Just a little side note. So Elohim is masculine and feminine. Even in the wording, it is masculine and feminine. Okay. All right. So here we already know pretty much the overall creation story. All right. And it starts with light out of this ambiguous cesspool that I related to the zodiac sign of Pisces, like the great infinite, the malleable material. And the spirit also hovers over the face of the deep. Then from there came light. So light is the consciousness. Out of the great invisible, the negative, the womb, the infinite possibility, came light, the consciousness. And we go on throughout the different days. And then finally, we have on day 6, and day 6 represents temptation. It also represents flesh and matter, as 666 is the number of neutrons, protons, and electrons. That's where we have Adam, and Adam not referring to the man or the human more so, but referring to reality, everything that comes out of that divine spark, out of that light. Okay, and so that happens on day 6. Land. Humans that came from the physical matter. All right. Okay. So from here, when the Most High has created humans, the Most High gives them a command: be fruitful and multiply. So I'm going to read, actually, let me see. Am I going to read the whole? Yeah. All right. Here we go. First, Elohim, God, the ruling supreme force, universal law, blessed them both, or all of them, just depending on what creation story you really believe in. The humans that were there, they were blessed, okay? And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, and rule over it. So the word for subdue is kabash or kabash. By force, causing to submit to the will. So this is referring to man's animal nature. We all have an animal nature. And with that animal nature, that's like us living in our base chakra, pretty much, in the lower parts of ourselves. It also represents the will, the willpower, the spark. This could be, if we're relating it to a zodiac sign like Aries, the spark. Coming right after Pisces, the spring equinox, Nissan, the head, the spark that happens. So that would be like our willpower, our animal nature. And the word for domain or rule, like to rule over, is Radha, and that is royal, like almost like ruling over, like in a regal sense, like a king or a queen that rules over something. So some people, when they read about the word subdue and the meaning, they like force and dominating, but it's not really dominating. What it's not referring to, people will use this scripture, uh, to advocate ruling over the creation, like how man has ruled over earth and animals, and they feel like they can just do anything to animals and the earth, and they're, it says here in this scripture, we can just do whatever we want. But it's not referring to that. It's referring to working your willpower. That's what this, in essence, is really saying. Divine will. We have the ability to take our divine will, rule over our animal nature, and shape something into the creation. So this speaks also to esoterically, like magic and willpower, and being able to take the God root, the higher root. And what I mean by root is like avenue, and taking the God mind and our animal nature, bringing them to one to create something in the world. This speaks also to, tying it all together, is our soul purpose. Our sole purpose when we come here, we may know up there when we are in the great infinite, but when we come down here, it becomes denser and denser and denser as we come closer to physical matter, but also our animal nature. That's taking the great infinite and bringing it down, condensing it to a physical body. So sometimes, well, a lot of times, we actually end up forgetting a lot of our magic, our power. We forget our previous incarnations. We may even forget what we came here for. Why am I here? But through working with our willpower, alleviating and eliminating our animal nature, or more so controlling our animal nature, going from using our animal nature to just dominate over things and just be selfish and just for our own selfish rule, we are able to harness that creative force. That's what it is, also creative force, and take it to create and align and have the willpower to keep on the straight and narrow path of our soul's contract, of our soul's purpose. And that's overall what this is talking about. Be fruitful and multiply. This also speaks to the principle of multiplication. Being able to take one, first of all, formulating a formula, coming up with a recipe for success, and building that as a template to apply to every avenue of our lives, and repeating it over and over again. Because it says be fruitful. Okay, we can be fruitful. Like, a lot of times we can find success like once or twice here, but do you have the recipe for it to be continuously successful on a continuous basis? And that's what this is speaking to. Not only just being fruitful, but also being able to multiply over and over into the earth. The earth is our body, but it also is literally amongst the masses. And it's not by force in the means that I'm going to force you to do what I want you to do. As far as a human, like forcing another human to do what you want them to do. This is referring to us forcing our animal nature to submit to our higher will. And with the regal quality of like a righteous king or queen or a ruler, is that they measure up to the standards of their higher mind. How do you measure your physical standards to your higher mind? And that's, once again, finding that recipe. It's going to take trial and error, but the key is not to give up. That's where our animal nature comes in, because it's that infinite willpower. But it's us taking our higher faculties of our mind and being able to nourish it and being able to use it as an impetus and a continuous drive to continue on down that path, even if it may get hard or difficult. But it's to really use it and harness it, not to fall victim to it. The pun about the apple in the Garden of Eden. Well, first I'm prompted to go backwards first. Adam and Eve. Okay, so masculine and feminine. You have the masculine, that is the doer. And you have the feminine, that is the imagination. The pun about the apple with the seed. The seed is the idea that you implant into your subconscious. In an analogy, Eve with the womb, you implant, and the womb represents like deep in the subconscious, because that's where it festers and it grows. And when it grows, you're able to push it out into physical reality where you can see it, hold it, and work with it. So the pun with the apple. So it's one thing to have a garden, and it's one thing to have an idea. But when you have, like I was saying with the template, you have the idea, but you're really building a template. So when you form this template, you're able to multiply it. It's one thing, like it could have been, let me think of something that doesn't really have seeds. I guess a banana doesn't have seeds. Okay, I'm gonna use a banana or some other fruit or whatever that does not have seeds. Say it was a banana tree with this analogy. How do you regrow a banana tree? Like you would, from my understanding, I don't really know, I'm not really a gardener, but how would you regrow it? Or how, if something that did not have seeds, how would you regrow it? How would you multiply it? You wouldn't be able to multiply it because it doesn't have the seed. So with the pun with the apple, it has seeds. That means that you can grow it and you can multiply it. If you have a seed, you're able to multiply over and over again. Something that replicates more seeds so you can grow and multiply what you have. This also speaks to the concept of not just with ideas or plans. It also refers to finances. When you have been given a seed, how do you utilize that seed? I'm referring also to another study that we did a couple weeks ago about the parable of talents. You had the servant that had 10 talents, he multiplied it. He had the servant that had 5 talents, multiplied it. And then he had the servant that only had 1, but they buried it. Talents are skills, are spiritual skills and talents. You have to work with them. You have to plant them, nourish them. You have to work with them to help grow them. You can't just bury them, because if you bury them, they could be taken away. So when you have a seed, regardless of how small or how big your seed is, nourish it, plant it, multiply it. You wonder how so many people, or how some people are able to build, not just in their wealth and in their relationships, but build anything, because they have found the seed and they replicated it, they multiplied it, they found that formula, they created that template, and they're able to multiply it over multiple avenues of their lives or categories of their lives, and they build upon that. So when you find, and you already probably know what your seed is, and when you have it, nourish it, plant it, and grow it, and then multiply it and keep going. I'm going to check my notes to see if I have anything else. Yeah, I believe that is all that I have for today. Don't forget about my I am that I am divine guidance cards. It's 44 watercolored cards, and you can find them on TikTok, Instagram, my Etsy shop, as well as my website. My book is also on Amazon. If you guys already have it, please leave a review down below. That helps, more people to find the book, but also, know that it is a good book. And I'm currently converting it to a paperback book, and I have the date already. And I'll keep you guys posted. I will be relaunching the Ascended Bible Studies really soon after I get like the book out of the way and a couple other stuff that I have to get out of the way. Well, not really out of the way. I don't really like saying that, but completed. And I'll keep you guys posted. The shop will be opening up really soon. And yeah, so that's pretty much all for those announcements and for this study. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, not just today, but for those that tuned in for the multiple studies. I really do appreciate it. I will be back. Yeah, I'll be back real soon with some more Ascended Bible studies. Okay, you guys, until next time, you guys be blessed.